So I want to take a look at the NFC standings if the playoffs were to happen today, what the current seeding would look like for the Packers, the rest of the teams in the NFC, and the NFC North. And right now, the NFC North is the best division in football. The Packers, even though they are sitting at 8-3, are sitting at third in the NFC North. So there's no doubt that this year we have really seen the NFC North go to new heights with the Lions at 10-1, the Vikings at 9-2, the Packers at 8-3, and then the Chicago Bears in last place in the NFC North. And because of that, when we look at the current NFC seedings, the Packers would currently be the 6th seed in the NFC, with the Lions being the 1st seed, taking the spot there for being ahead in the NFC North, 10-1. The Vikings are then the first wild card team at 9-2. The Packers would then be the second wild card team at 8-3. Then the Commanders would finish it off being 7-5. And the good thing right now for the Packers, considering the Lions are currently in first place at 10-1, it may be tough to get ahead of them. I'll explain some scenarios in a few minutes about a few different scenarios that could happen and what to basically watch for in the coming weeks. But currently, when you look at the teams that are just outside of the top 7 seeds in the NFC, you have the Cardinals at 6-5, who the Packers already beat. You have the Buccaneers at 5-6, the Rams at 5-6, and then the 49ers at 5-6. And so at the current time, the Packers are 2 games ahead of the closest team to being in the 7th seed. Currently would be the 8th seed, and the Cardinals at 6-5. And so even though the Packers are not winning the NFC North, even though they're currently not even the second best team in the NFC North, they still have a pretty good hold on being one of the wild card teams at the current time. And when we start to look at tiebreakers, which really could come into the picture as we get closer to the end of the season, with the Vikings being 1 game ahead, the Lions being 2 games ahead, the Packers are still going to play the Lions, the Vikings, and the Bears. And so a lot could happen in this division in the final 6 weeks. But currently, once you first take the record, the next tiebreaker is head-to-head games. The Packers, 2 of their losses, one are to the Vikings in week 4, losing 31-29. The other was to the Lions in week 9, losing 24-14. And so 2 of the 3 Packers losses are against the NFC North. And right now in the division, the Packers are currently sitting at 1-2. And so after you look at the head-to-head between current teams, which right now the Packers lost to the Vikings, lost to the Lions week 4, and then week 9, the Packers, really need to win those games against the Lions and against the Vikings to even have a chance there in a tiebreaker. Because if they lose, let's say, to the Lions or the Vikings, either one, and they finish with the same record, the Packers would lose the tiebreaker because the other team would have 2 wins against them. Now, if they then, let's say, are tied with the Vikings or Lions, and they're both 1-1 in those games, it then goes to the division win percentage, which currently the Packers aren't in a good spot. Currently 1-2 in the division. The Lions are 2-0, and the Vikings are 2-1. And so a lot can change in the next 6 weeks, but considering the Lions are still, 2 games ahead of the Packers, they're 2-0 in the division, they already beat the Packers, a lot will have to go in the Packers' favor if they want to somehow win the NFC North. It's not out of the realm of possibilities. The Lions would just need to struggle, and the Packers would need to pretty much be perfect down the stretch. But all in all, I do think the Packers are in a very good position. I honestly wouldn't be too concerned if the Packers were to finish as, let's say, the 5th or 6th seed. I think we saw last year how good the Packers can be when they are seen as more of an underdog. I think the youth of the team leads them to, when they have a chip on their shoulder, it really does feel to me that this team plays even better. And so, of course, you would rather win the NFC North, win the NFC, be the number 1 seed, have that bye. I think that's obviously the best case scenario. But I honestly, with the way this team is played, the way this team is built up with the youth, I don't think being a wild card team is a terrible situation. I honestly think that it could play in the Packers' favor in some ways. And so when you look at these other seedings, you got the Seahawks, the 3rd seed, the Eagles, the 2nd seed, the Falcons, the 4th seed. Currently, if the playoffs were to start today, you'd have the 3 seed playing the 6th seed, which would be Packers, Seahawks. Could be a good game. If the Packers are the 5th seed, currently you'd have Falcons versus Packers. And so considering the 3rd and 4th seeds, when you look at those divisions, the NFC West and NFC South, Both of those divisions are not very good. All three, the leaders in the NFC West and NFC South, if they were in the NFC North, would currently be, if you took out the Bears, they'd currently be in 4th place. And so the Packers could, have a even better chance if they are the 5th or 6th seed, just because you're playing the winners of the NFC West and NFC South, which have been some of the worst divisions in football. So it wouldn't be the end of the world. And so we'll continue to keep an eye on it. It's going to factor, these next games against the Lions, the Vikings, how these teams play, it's going to really determine what happens down the stretch. But I do think at 8-3, the Packers are in a very good spot. I think that this is a team that has the capability to beat anyone. I really do. And I think that if they can get into a stretch where they start to play some of their best football, just like they did to end last season, I do think this is a team that can make a push for the Super Bowl. There's no doubt about that. I think they do have the potential and the players and the talent that if everyone's healthy, if they're playing their best football, they could win a Super Bowl, in my opinion. But that's all I have for this one. If you want more Packers content, feel free to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.